As the deadline for the continuous voter registration draws nearer, an unprecedented number of will-be voters of mostly young people troop out to get registered for the permanent voters card. In Lagos, this is in part due to the Youth Vote Count mega music concert at the Tafawa Balewa Square, organized by the civil society in partnership with INEC and the European Union. But also unusual is the massive turnout for the voter registration exercise in the southeastern part of the country. On the program today, we analyze what could be responsible for this turnout and whether or not this could have a significant implication in the country's voting pattern. Welcome to Dateline. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for joining. Earlier on, I spoke to INEC's National Electoral Commissioner for Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye, via phone. And here is what he has to say.
Well, in relation to the concert, what we did was that we made the ticket for entrance to the concert was based on the BBC, possession of BBC or evidence of the registration. And it was intended to encourage people, especially the youth, to come and register. So what we did was that we deployed 30 iBet machines for purposes of voter registration to the place. Unfortunately, so many markets decided to close down and invaded the place, and the place became slightly rowdy. We envisage that towards the end of the voter registration exercise, that there may be a slight surge in terms of turnout. But this present one is really unprecedented, and we really didn't anticipate this type of surge. Well, the commission met with all the resident electoral commissioners on Thursday, and we took briefing from all the resident electoral commissioners relating to the challenges in their various states. And we made a determination that the challenges were more in Lagos, in the 5 states of the Southeast, in Kano, and Oyo. So based on that, we have deployed 209 additional iBet machines, including the fingerprint scanners and the thermal printers to those things. We are also deploying a slightly reduced number to other states where we also have some level of surge. And so we are dealing with the situation, and we assure Nigerians, every Nigerian that is interested in registering, we get an opportunity of registering. The chairman has assured the nation that we are going to do whatever is possible, whatever it takes to make sure that we register every registrable Nigerian. Well, as far as the commission is concerned, the commission does not have any verified evidence relating to any form of attack. All we know is that we have, in some markets in Lagos, the market leaders just suddenly closed down the markets and directed every family in the market to proceed and go and register. That possession of the BBC or evidence of registration was going to be a condition precedent to entering the market. So suddenly, around 10,000, 5,000 people descended on some registration centers that had only one machine. And the streets were closed and so on and so forth. It became a terrible security situation, and the security agencies were called in to restore order. So as of today, order has been restored in Lagos. And what we have, the Resident Electoral Commission and the Solution have had dialogue with the leaders of the market unions, and we have agreed that the 30 iBet machines that are being used for registration at the Tafawa Balewa Square for purposes of the concert will be deployed to areas of acute need. And in some of those markets, we have agreed that we are going to deploy 4 spray machines to those markets to register everybody who is interested in registering. So we're on top of the situation. The 30 machines that we deploy for the purposes of the concert are going to be left in Lagos to complement the already existing number of machines that we are deployed to Lagos. And so we are confident that with 30 additional machines, we can register all registrable Nigerians before the close of the period. As far as the commission is concerned, the closing date for this registration is the 30th day of June. But the commission, the chairman, in his briefing during the meeting we have with resident electoral commissioners, and also during his other briefing, has made it very clear that we are going to do whatever it takes to make sure that all Nigerians get registered. And so we are going to watch the situation for a few months, and then the commission will meet and take a decision on forward.
All right, thank you for staying, and you're watching Dateline on Trust Television. I have in the studio Jove Ojinika, a politician and former member of the House of Representatives, and also our in-house analyst, Mr. Kenny Amodu, who is also going to be giving perspectives to the issue on the table. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Now, well, let's begin with, why the recent surge in the turnout of, Nigerians who are interested in getting registered for the whole exercise in 2023 election. Let me start with Mr. Kenny. If you may, why all of a sudden? I mean, this INEC registration, voter registration exercise has been ongoing for more than a year, but all of a sudden we're seeing thousands troop, to the registration centers in Lagos and some parts of the southeastern part of the country.
I think it's as a result of a deliberate campaign to woo people out to register. Now, it's also a fallout of the party primaries of the different parties. Those that have lost out, their followers are seeking to change the ballot, to change the nature of voting patterns. And there's that campaign that to be at the polling station and vote their candidate in. Now, that is the basic reason for people coming out. But then also, don't forget that this is not a new phenomenon. When the elections come near, because Nigerians are used to fire brigade last-minute arrangements, you always see a choking up of the registration centers, especially if there is a deadline for the registration to close. So it's not altogether new. It's something that has been happening all down the years.
All right, Mr. Jove, what's your own thoughts about this? Do you think that this is exactly the case, the last-minute rush?
Yes, I think it's partially attributable to the Nigerians' attitude. It happened at the same time with the name registration. People had to wait for the last minute. But in this case of INEC registration, I think it goes beyond that. If you look at the demographics of the people who are turning out for these voters, you see that mainly they are youths and there are people that are above 18. Many of them are up to 30, 40, meaning that for a very long time, people never ever had cause to trust in our electoral system because of the laws guiding the elections. People, engage in a whole lot of things and get away with it. And you saw in the last, it was a tug of war to get the president to sign the electoral bill. And now that he has signed the electoral bill, I think it has given a lot of confidence in the minds of Nigerians that this time that their votes will count. Why many people were not registering in the past is that they were feeling, they had this conviction that their votes will never count. So what's the need of going there to register or to waste their time? They feel it is an exercise in futility, that the results are already known before they go to vote, so that their votes will not count. But with this electronic transmission, insisting on beavers, on electronic accreditation and all those processes. It has a inherent confidence.
But if you say that, then why are we having, you talk about the demographics. Yes, most of them young people. But again, looking at the geographical, location, INEC itself said that most of the surge we've seen is from the southeastern part of the country and Lagos and then, a few other states. So let me throw this to Mr. Kenny. If you say that this is, the usual, turnout, that the usual last-minute turnout, why then are we seeing more of the population from a particular region of the country?
I've already said it before, and besides, I've said it before, so let me come out and be clear now. A lot of people had thought that the Southeast as a region, this was their time to seek the presidency. And this time, according to zoning arrangements, according to gentlemen's agreements, zoning arrangements in both parties, mind you, this was the turn of the Southeast. Now, what has come out is that the two big parties have not gone the way of the Southeast. And obviously they should be aggrieved. Now, the whole idea is to seek to actualize this, to seek to go and vote for a candidate of their choice, even if it's not in the two major parties. And this kind of movement in the Southeast will yield results. If you're looking at those that voted, the demographics of those that voted in 2019, you see that the Southeast had the lowest number of voters. But now, with the surge in the Southeast, that number could be doubled. And you could be having a real chance for the Southeast to fight. Of course, they have to build bridges.
Well, let me hear from. Would you agree that this is some kind of maybe some protest? Is this, does the party primaries, that were conducted and a reawakening for maybe the people in the Southeast? Would you say
yes,
that's the
there's
case?
the current situation in the country. Compare that the Southeast people take it that this is their turn. And as one of the candidates, they say, this is my turn. The Southeast believes that the presidency should come to the southern part of the country, and if he does that, we should naturally, if there is justice in the country, come to Southeast. You saw the the statement of Ogbonnionu during the APC convention, where he said, where is the justice? And he repeated that 3 times. So, and suddenly people are also in the Southeast, they're interpreting that the justice should be that maybe now that they have one of theirs flagging the flag of Labour Party, that should be the justice. But in addition to that, which is something that I want, is important that we place everybody on notice, and you see where such things are happening. Due to the economic situation in the country, the level of poverty, level of unemployment, the insecurity, the uncertainty, everything that has, and division, everything that has, in fact, human indices in life, the country seems to be on the negative. So this has placed a lot of people that they intend to take over their country, recover their country that they feel that they have lost to about 5% of their population. And if you see what's happening here now in the country, if you follow the trend of election that took place in Zambia, that was exactly what played out in Zambia. The youth smashed out to come out to register. And you see this marching out, but is placing Independent National Electoral Commission on notice that nobody can joke with this election. Because from the voting point that people, from this registration, they are coming out from campaign. From campaign, they are going to vote. From vote, they are monitoring the votes. From there, if anything goes contrary to the expectation, everybody is moving to the streets, and it will be. So it's placing everybody on notice that for this election, there will be no cutting corners. The Independent National Electoral Commission, the security agencies, everybody have to do their job. Because if you see the way people are struggling, they are not struggling to get registered so as to come out for you to come and dash them this 20,000, 30,000 that they go to send to the booth. I think this time around, you will see people being lynched. People coming to bribe people. If you come to the booth with money, people will beat hell out of you. I see a kind of a total change. And if you read, if you follow it, even the one that took place in Australia, in most of the countries now where opposition, especially the youth-based oppositions have taken over. In those countries, you see that the same trend that is going on now in the country. If you go to almost on the online sites, you see how the whole things are trending and how movements are going on.
Okay, now there are those who have argued that will this trickle down to the grassroots? I mean, some say that, well, this is just in the urban centers where you have people that have access to online and internet platforms or the television and all of that. So there are those who are really wondering whether this can actually trickle down.
If some time ago in this country, there are certain things that when they start happening and they will tell you they will happen in this country, you will say it is not possible. Never ever before in this country can we ever believe that a Nigerian can agree to go on a suicide mission and kill himself. We never ever believed it can happen. But it started, and it has come to be a reality. The second one is that people will believe that a lot of people will not come out to vote. I can tell you, the kind of poverty, the kind of frustration that people have faced, the kind of uncertainty, you can imagine a country where we are now. We are so restricted. You can't go to Kaduna by road. You can't go by air. You can't go.
All of these things.
All these things are things
but all these things have been happening for the past 10 years. Are they enough to actually push the kind of move that we're talking about? We have never been so restricted. I can tell you in this country today, 80% of our federal highways are no more safe. All right, let me let Mr. Kenny, chip in on this. Will this trickle down? And can this actually, does it have the, capacity to change the voting pattern, like we know it in Nigeria?
Anything is possible in Nigeria. That is the first thing that we ought to realize. I have doubts that it may trickle down because this is an urban movement, essentially. But we have 1 year after all this to set this down. Now, the extent to which it will trickle down to the rural areas will depend on the champions of this cause taking this campaign to the rural areas. And in the rural areas is a ready army of people that want to take on this message. So that's why I say anything can happen in Nigeria. If we go by past politics, past history of Nigeria, we may say that these urban movements didn't trickle down to the rural areas. But now, it depends on the champions of the movement. It means that the champions of the movement have done the initial groundwork to set everybody on fire. They now need to take that campaign away from Facebook and Twitter and go to the rural areas and talk to people one-on-one. Because let me tell you something. The elites also are aware that this is going on, are also strategizing to see that they will take advantage of this.
How to spoil the process, isn't it?
That's the point.
Well, Mr. Job, it's one thing to have people registered, for their PVCs, but it's another to get them collect the PVCs and even participate in the elections. Like in 2019, we have over 80 million registered voters, but only about 28 million came out to actually cast vote. So can we talk to the obstacles and what are the reasons why we do not see the number as registered translating into vote cast?
Yeah, I think events of the past has so much different from the situation we have now. Most of the people you see going to register are now students. These are students that some people have stayed 6 years, 7 years running a 4-year program that ordinarily by now they should have graduated and be doing other things else. These are people that have also graduated about 7 years ago, no job, nothing, no prospects of getting any job. The whole thing has built up so much, and the only way they feel is that they've done this thing, that it is only about 5% of the Nigerian population that is taking the whole country to a ransom. And I think people would like to recover their country. That in a country where the universities are closed, somebody will be saying that an individual can take about 100, 200 billion, 80 billion, and they're mentioning such staggering figures in the face of poverty, in the face of unemployment, in the face of school. In fact, what they are just giving, this surge you see is just a notice. If somebody can take, if it can take somebody waking up by 4 a.m. to go there, stay for 6, 7, 12 hours to get this PVC, is it 1 hour or 30 minutes that will take him to collect it that you think he will not? The thing now is a departure from what we used to have in the past.
But there are still PVCs.
And then the mode of registration now, all those people registering in all those centers, you can't even be sure where they will vote. Right now, I can register in Abuja and cast my vote in Lagos. And how do you do it? There are options. They will bring which state do you want to vote. That option will, you say Lagos. Even if I'm doing the registration in Abuja, they will say yes in the current registration exercise. It wasn't like that before. So most of those numbers you see either in Lagos or in any of those places can even vote in the hinterlands. And I'm also sure that in terms of their strategy, they will make sure that they maintain visibility in the 120-something polling booths in the country, or about 146,000 polling booths in the country.
Okay. Like I said, there are still PVCs that are lying in INEC offices nationwide uncollected. Huge numbers of PVCs banded in Ghana must go bags and all
Again,
that.
that's also something to look at. Why are people not collecting these PVCs? Because I cannot understand why someone will take the stress to register, because the registration itself, comes with its own, stress. People queue up for hours and then eventually, when it's ready for collection, that doesn't happen. So what are the obstacles here? Is it the people that are just not showing up to collect the PVCs, or is there also other hurdles that we are not seeing from the INEC perspective?
Hurdles can be surmounted. The point about this that I'm trying to make is that there are millions of PVCs that have not been collected. Those PVCs determine how the elections will go. In 2019, about 2 weeks to about a month to elections, INEC released the number of PVC, the number of states that had collected, number of PVCs that have been collected, the number of PVCs that were uncollected. We had 84 million Nigerians, 84.004 million Nigerians that registered for the elections. 34% of the 84 registered voters voted in those elections. So this says a lot about what the mindset of the average Nigerian has been. Like I say, there is still 12 months between now and the elections to push for people to this time around collect their PVCs.
Okay.
Because register for your PVCs is a different campaign. Go collect your PVCs is a different campaign. Go and vote is another campaign altogether.
Well, Mr. Jove, why do you think that we have this happening?
It's partly also due to the fact that those people will say, why do I need to go to collect my PVC? They have always believed that their votes will never count. But this time around, if you start that campaign, a lot of people will go. If people can waste this time to go and get registered, is it going to collect?
Do you think that there's a problem with INEC?
No,
from the angle of INEC.
Secondly, in those days when they started this registration, I don't think maybe they were foolproof or error-proof. Maybe there may be errors, or there may be people who may have registered more than once as against her. So most of those things were the things that have been eliminated this time. The issue of, in terms of the uncollected PVCs, the uncollected PVCs will no longer count in terms of determining whether there's a substantial compliance with the number of people that were supposed to vote or not vote. Do you understand? In terms of trying to margin of lead, whether the margin of lead is up to the number of people who never voted. So if you have then collected your PVC, that record is now an official record that can be inputted into the Electoral Act section, a particular section took care of that. So all those things are issues now that these are confidence building issues that have really because before they would say maybe in a polling unit that you have this number of registered voters, whereas the actual number of people that collected this thing, it affected the election in Osun State. That made it possible. They now say the margin of lead was not up to this. They now, did for supplementary election, and another person eventually won the election. So, which was not supposed to be. So, all these things are things that have now given people, in fact, the frustration in the land is the major compelling force. People want this system changed. Nigerians want to recover their country.
All right, now what should INEC be doing? Because I've heard complaints, even from some of the videos that we saw, of how people complain about the process being very slow, and so the issue, it brings the issue of the capacity of INEC to actually absorb all these people, making sure that everyone gets registered. We have a timeline, almost by 30th of June, the closing date.
It's already doing what it should be doing. It has released 209 extra machines to the places where there is a surge. That's the first thing to handle a crisis situation. And it also promised that it will monitor the situation and see if there are extra measures that can be implemented, which is okay. So it shows that this time around, INEC is on top of its game.
All right, final word.
On a final note, I think INEC has to extend that period of registration. It's almost becoming imperative. And secondly, the conduct of some of the INEC officials in the Lagos issue, they were complicit in the sense that they were not being professional. INEC officials were now seen as if they are obeying some ethnic, they are taking some ethnic colorations. So I called for immediate redeployment of the INEC officials in Lagos State, basically, and let them be, it's a national, they are federal staffs. They should be transferred, all of them should be transferred to another state, in fact, far away from Lagos, because they are now testing positive for ethnic bias and coloration. So I should call for their immediate redeployment, because we cannot tolerate that kind of ethnic sentiments for arbiters in such a federal election.
That's an allegation for which we cannot actually substantiate right now. But your call is noted, even if that's the case. Well, thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing your perspectives with us. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, my guests have been Kenny Amodu and also Geoff Ojinika, politician and former member of the House of Representatives. Now, with that, my name is Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for watching. Bye.